Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be creating a teal autumny kind of nail design. So I'm trying to bring out the dark colors, trying to really push myself and do some deeper, darker nail designs. So this is going to be one of them, and I've been dying for a very long time to use this color, and it's the teal color I've got here. So it's from Clou Beauty. I think the shade was 519. And as you can see, it's a beautiful, beautiful color, and I feel like the camera itself isn't giving it the full justice of what the color actually is. It's a much more darker teal than what it's showing. I might have had maybe my lights a bit too bright or something that day, but it's definitely a bit more darker, which I actually prefer. I quite like the color that it is. There it is getting applied. Yeah, it's definitely much darker. I will have a link in the description of where I got this one. I feel like probably the listing where I got it from AliExpress will probably show the color a bit more realistic to what it is rather than my camera today. So I'll have that link down in the description so you guys can have a look and see what else you can possibly get from them if you wanted to. They have a bunch and a bunch of different colors that you might want to have a look and get, and they're super affordable too. So I'm going to start off with applying our base colors. So we've got 3 of those teal colors. I was clearly struggling here. I'm not too sure what was going on. Usually my little stand works really well, and that day when I was using the polishers, it was just really messing with me and moving about and just not doing what I wanted it to do. And then we'll also do 2 nude nails, and the nude I'm using is N17 from Clou Beauty as well. So the majority of today's set is actually a full Clou Beauty. We do have one Vanillese in the background, and that color we're going to use for some black detailing later. I actually don't have a black from Clou Beauty. I have white, but I don't have a black. I might have to get some just to complete the set. So of course now it's time to do some sugaring, and this was the closest teal kind of color that I could have found in my collection at the moment, and it actually suits quite well, and the color of the glitter is actually quite similar to the realistic teal color that I have rather than what's it's showing on camera. But this is it, looking beautiful. We're going to cure it all in the lamp now, and I don't know if I mentioned, but they have 2 coats now, so I did the second coat off camera. So whilst that is curing, we can start doing our marble. So we'll have 2 marbly kind of nails, but then the nail won't be fully marbled, if that makes sense. So I'm going to place some of that teal. We've got some white, and this is where the black's going to come into play. We're going to do 3 lines next to each other, and then using a dotting tool, we're going to swirl it into one another until you're happy. You don't have to do it, you don't have to swirl too much or too little. It's all kind of down to how mixed up the colors you might want them to be. So these are going to be the 2 nails that we're going to give a little marbled effect. So I am going to use my UR Sugar Bloom Gel. I've had that one for absolute years, so the bottle's a bit manky now. Just pretend you can't see that. So there we go, I've swirled it as much as I kind of wanted to. Then I'm going to apply a nice thin layer of the Bloom Gel on the nails, and I usually like to do a thin layer just because you end up placing quite a fair bit of gel polish on top of it, and then you might end up having curing issues, and it might just end up being bumpy and lumpy, and that's not what we want. So I always like to do a very thin layer. It still seems to do the job, which is great. Nice thin layer on both. And then I'm going to use my Madame Glam ombre brush, and I find that they are the best at doing these kind of floating on the marble on the nail. So the idea behind these 2 nails was supposed to be kind of a marbly thing happening from the top, kind of swirling down to the bottom, but on the sides I wanted the nude to be peeking out. So here I'm going to start applying it, and this bit you want to kind of float. Usually you want to do it quite slowly, just to kind of let the gel polish kind of do its thing. So in my head I envisioned it a bit different, but I just placed too much polish, and I was just going a bit too much. So I initially wanted less polish. I wanted there to be a bit more nude on the sides, but I placed too much. Then the Bloom Gel did its thing, and there wasn't too much on the side, which is still fine. It still looked very nice. And with the marble as well, for example here, I kind of felt like there was a bit too much green. You can go in and add a little bit more of black, for example, or white, whatever color that you feel like you're missing. You can add it back in, which is great. So we're going to repeat this exact process on this nail too. With the Bloom Gel, the longer you leave it, the more it's going to bloom, so do keep an eye out on them. Sometimes I have had a nail or two where I've kind of left it, I forgot about it, and then I came back to it, and it just completely just marbled and just, you know, did its thing across the whole nail, which was not what I wanted. So the nails have now been cured. There we go. And then I am applying some Macarte transfer foil gel, and that's because I am going to be applying some of those gold flakes that we can see in the background right now. So the reason I'm applying the transfer foil gel, I've tried all sorts of different ways of applying foil gel. I mean, not foil gel, the gold little flakes. I've tried just on a tacky layer of some polish. I've tried on a base layer. I've tried on all sorts of different ways. But I find that the transfer foil gel works the best, and it makes sense because it's sticky, so it just does its wonders. So I'm going to use a bit of my fingers and a bit of a tool. I was kind of struggling I feel like foils are quite difficult to use anyways, and quite difficult to kind of get them exactly where you want them. So whatever method you want to do it, however way you pick them up, what I'm trying to do is kind of place them on the right and on the left hand side, just where the kind of the nude and the marbly effect is meeting, just to give it that extra little detailing. And we are repeating that on both of those nails. So this is kind of why I wanted a bit more nude on both sides, so that we can actually have it like almost like a little path going down the nail and the gold foils, but it still doesn't look bad, which is great. And with this bit, you're not trying to cover up, it's just kind of add some details. It doesn't have to be too much. You know, you're not trying to cover up where the nude and the marbly bit is meeting. You just kind of want to add some little textures and some little looks there. So yeah, here I decided to try doing finger. It felt a bit harder to a degree, but at the same time I had more control. It was just a big mess really with the foils. They're quite hard. Alright, so those two nails have now been done, and I've now decided to go ahead and do some 3D flowers. So I'm going to start off with applying one of these AB crystals right in the center of one of those teal nails. We're going to cure that in place so it doesn't move about, and now it's time to do our 3D flowers. So I'm using my 4D carving gel. I'm going to use a dotting tool to pick up the amount that I want from the pot. As you can see, I'm starting to run low. It's starting to disappear quite quickly from my little pot. And then I'm placing it on my arm, and then on my hand, and then using my finger, I am just going to roll it up into a little ball and then place it where I want it. So we want a slightly chunkier ball at the bottom. We want 3 slightly smaller ones on either side of that crystal. So that's going to be another big one at the top, and there we go. So we need to do 4 more little balls on either side, and then we can start working on doing the little flower shapes. So with this flower placement, it's really nice. I'm still learning, so it's not perfect. I'm very comfortable with doing those little kind of rounded petals, but the moment I tried to do one of those elongated and trying to kind of sharpen the edge of the petal rather than have it rounded, it becomes a bit hard for me. So I'm still pushing through. I'm trying. I feel like every time I try it kind of gets better. So yeah, it'll come with practice, I'm sure. Maybe I'm just doing something wrong, and maybe you guys might know what I'm doing wrong and you can let me know in the comments. But I gave it a go. It's not the prettiest of things, I feel like. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I really kind of want it to look perfect, or it just doesn't work for me. So this was kind of one of those nails. It wasn't the worst, because I still decided to film it, so I didn't feel like it was the worst, but there's definitely room for improvement. So what I usually like to do, I get my silicone tool, I dip it into some Miley Nail Prep wipe liquid, I think, or something like that. I always like to call it a nail cleaner, because that's why I use it to clean nails down, the tacky layers, or if I have any fluffs on the nails. So with the silicone tool, you just kind of want to press at an angle, so those three that I just did there, now the other three here, those are the ones I'm comfortable with. Those are really super simple and easy to do. You literally grasp how to do these super quickly. Now these are going to be the most hardest things on the planet. I also don't know what happened here, because at the end of it, I ended up actually getting some of that teal on my my silicone tool, which I don't know why. Maybe it would be a good idea to wipe it down after curing, or maybe it didn't fully cure. I have no idea what happened, but for some reason it started to kind of mix with the color, which is a bit weird. But as you can see, I'm kind of struggling. It kind of looks alright. It doesn't look the worst, like I said, but you know, one day I'll get it right. So I'm just trying my best to create one of those longer pointy petals. And then once I'm happy, I will pop it into the lamp. Today's set finally is going to be glossy. I feel like I haven't done a glossy set in a little while. So we're going to pop this one into the lamp. Here it is, looking beautiful. So we're on our last little step. So it's time to top coat all of these nails. So you want to avoid the petals. The petals cure matte. I've never tried to glossy top coat them, but I don't think it will look very nice. So I do like the matte look that it gives. So you want to avoid the petals. And yeah, the rest of it we're just going to top coat. I would advise to watch out with the foils that we've placed, the gold foil flakes that we've placed on the nails there, just because they're kind of just stuck down by the tacky layer. There's nothing actually capping them in there. So when you're applying your top coat, just watch out to make sure you don't end up getting any of those flakes on your little brush. I feel like every so often I kept taking my brush off the nail, there we go, and having a look just in case there's anything that came off, and luckily there didn't. So if I had used base coat and then tried to glue it on via that, or even on a tacky layer, I would have just ended up having foil on my brush for sure. So I highly recommend the transfer foil gel to do these little flakes. And the top coat I'm using is from Venalisa, just in case you're wondering as well. So now it's time to cure it, and here are the final results. I really like it. It's something different. I don't usually pick up these kind of colours, so yeah, I quite like it, and I was dying to use the teal colour. I was absolutely dying. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you all in my next video. Bye guys!